We're going to be working on translating. Translating. That's what we do as coaches. We translate judgment and pain into feelings and needs. I'm going to give one quick story and maybe an example, and then you guys are going to do the rest of the work. I was doing a session a couple days ago for two women who love each other. They've been in a relationship for 3.5 years, a beautiful gay couple. And they clearly have a good relationship. And but they had a big issue, which was that they had gone to a party, and prior to the party, they had made agreements about how they were going to stay connected with each other. But one of them got to the party and had a really deep connection right off the bat with somebody else. It wasn't a poly thing, it was just really deeply connected, and the other one got jealous. And the one who got jealous still has a lot of pain around not feeling understood for her jealousy and how hurt she was. And the one who had committed, had done the thing, felt really hurt, like she, of course, loved her and she didn't do anything wrong. And they had been trapped, and this was my first session working with them. They'd been trapped for 6 months in a cycle of not understanding each other. So much so that the one who had had the connection with somebody else was like, I don't feel comfortable going out with you ever again to another party. Because she was like she felt so beat up for what happened, and she doesn't want to go through that again. And the other one was like, well, why can't you just get over it? Why can't you just get over it, right? So this is what we worked on. And the moment they started to go into it, ironically, the one who had gotten jealous and had said, why don't you just let it go and get over it, clearly still had all this stuff going on because she hadn't been fully understood. And the one who was like shy and never wanted to screw it up again also was just like cowering the moment that it started, right? So I stopped them both. They've been going on and on around this for 6 months. And in 1 minute, it all changed. I said, oh, you know what's extraordinary? You both want the same thing. You both want to be connected, and you both want to feel safe. And for the one who got jealous, safety is really making sure that you're in, consistent connection. And the other one, for you, your strategy for feeling safe is just never to put yourself in that situation again. But you both want the same thing. You both want to feel safe, and you both want to feel connected because you both love each other so much, and you never want to experience that pain again. Boom. They're both crying, they're both holding each other, and it was resolved. What happened? I translated it into needs. And ironically, they both wanted the same thing. They just had very different strategies how to get there. And they were so locked into attack, defend. You did something wrong. No, I didn't. You did something wrong. No, I didn't. They were so caught in that loop. And the moment I watched it, they went right back into that loop. So as I thought about it, I said, okay, I really want to work with my mentorship group right off the bat on translating into feelings and needs. Is that clear for everybody? So we're going to do a couple of practices. Going popcorn style, I want for each of you to think of something you've observed where somebody got triggered. It can be yourself, or it actually can be somebody else, okay? But where you saw somebody get triggered or where you got triggered, 30 seconds maximum on the story, and then translate it into feelings and needs. And remember, a couple of guidelines. We have uncomfortable feelings when our needs have either not been met or they've been threatened. We have uncomfortable feelings when our needs have not been met or they've been threatened. We have comfortable feelings when our needs have been met. Okay. So, by the way, you don't have to translate all uncomfortable stories. I mean, you could definitely translate positive stories into comfortable feelings and needs as well. Okay, it doesn't have to be all the hard stuff. Is everybody clear on the assignment? Yep. All right, there's always a gold star for the first person to go. Oh, Lolly got that hand up fast. You should be playing Jeopardy.
Well, you know, it's an easy one for me when I'm with a beloved in the car and they're screaming and yelling and sometimes even challenging people with the car, sort of threatening, and I'm the passenger. I immediately think, oh, you know, I'm scared, but I immediately think, wow, they really have a need for safety. And just to take it one step a little further, is they probably have some veils of past pain about some ways that they might have been threatened with a vehicle or around a vehicle or maybe an accident. And so it helps me not be near as reactive in the moment, especially when I feel like my life is kind of being threatened too, because they're being aggressive towards anybody who has an indiscretion in front of them. Comes out as a lot of anger. And it's really helped energetically just to free that up in my mind. And I feel like they're way less reactive now in the car.
Beautiful. Big twinkling there for Lolly. And Lolly gave one of my favorite terms, a term that I coined. Who wants to tell us what a veil of past pain is? Who wants to talk about veils of past pain or define that? Oh, come on. Okay, there you go. Mimi.
It's where an original wound would have taken place, and we haven't yet finished processing it, so it just drags us right back to that veil, something we haven't uncovered yet.
Beautiful. Well done. Anybody else? And that was perfect. Anybody else want to add anything else about veils of past pain? Anaprabha.
Sorry, it's just kind of feeling like school again for a minute. I got a little bit of a, thanks. Well, veils of past pain, this comes up a lot because I think I have a lot of unresolved grief around different things. And so, yeah, because unresolved grief. In a situation with a beloved, with a boyfriend, I grew up in a very tumultuous, abusive family structure. So I have a veil of past pain when there's a man in my intimate relationship of a man in my home. My veil of past pain that I don't feel safe because there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of yelling, and so I'm just always end up like walking like on eggshells. And so that's even though I'm aware of it, I still have a veil of past pain around that. And so that energy still comes up in my nervous system, in my cellular makeup, right?
Oh, thank you for sharing a very vulnerable example of that. Okay, thank you. I'll add one last thing, a nice little way of putting it. A veil of past pain stops us from seeing another person or situation clearly. A veil of past pain prevents us from seeing another person or situation clearly. Okay. All right, you got us off to a great start there, Lolly. Who else wants to share a story and then feelings and needs? Heidi.
Unmute myself, sorry. I was working with a couple yesterday, and the gentleman shared that they had just freshly moved in together, and then the COVID-19 happened, and they were both laid off from work. And he was sharing that he felt that because she wasn't working and picking on people at work, and these are the words he used, that she was picking on him constantly, like he was under a microscope. And he feels like he couldn't do anything in the house or relax or take time. And he wanted to take time to just do nothing because he never has time to do anything. So, she was really on the defense and translating the feelings and needs. He just had a need for space and to be accepted and to be acknowledged that this wouldn't be forever, her translation was it was forever. And he's like, no, it's just right now. Can I take the opportunity to be lazy? And so his need was to rest and to kind of hunker down and process everything and have space and acceptance from his partner.
Beautiful. Very well done. Thank you. And boy, isn't that a common one, right? You know, some of you have heard me say this before, but it's a good thing to remember. It's a good example to give to people. Who of all of you has had that experience where you're in a long-term relationship? It could be with a family member or a roommate or a lover or a friend. But there's been enough moments where you've perceived being criticized by them or judged by them, or vice versa, that one of you is in neutral and says something neutrally, and the other one's like, okay, what is it now? What is it now? Nothing. No, I know what, and who's had that experience? Okay, most of us. So what happens? Our brain stores painful memories at 5 to 30 times greater than pleasurable memories. Our brain is wired for survival. So when we have experienced a certain level of judgment, criticism, or perceived judgment or criticism, we perceived it that way, the other person may not have even meant it that way, our brain starts storing that memory, and that person then becomes a potential enemy to be feared. And so that's why when we see that person and our brain sends danger, 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 our brain, there's something about the way their face is looking that's reminding us of another time that either we got into a fight right after that or we're in a fight with that person. And it happens so fast, right? That's an example of where our brain has a veil of past pain that then sends us the message that we then go into protecting ourselves when we don't even need to do that. So it's a really good thing to be aware of how that happens, and to support couples with understanding that, because usually when people really understand that, there's like this big relief. There's this relief of, oh, you mean she really isn't attacking me all the time, or that's why I have those reactions. Because otherwise it feels like gaslighting, right? For the person who thinks that they're being judged or made wrong, and the other one denies it, it feels like gaslighting. But then for the one who denies it, if they really are neutral, it's frustrating because they're being falsely accused. You all kind of catch that cycle? And it feels really shitty to be falsely accused, and it feels really shitty to be gaslit. And then people get into a whole thing of, no, I know you're triggered. No, I'm not. Yeah, you're triggered. Okay, now I'm triggered, right? It's like that, right? So learning to just slow it down, and as coaches help people, again, recognize how the brain does that, recognize about veils of past pain, slowing it down. And once again, translating even that into feelings and needs. Oh, you're feeling scared and you're needing some reassurance. Oh, the look on my face triggered anxiety or concern. It's okay. Are you needing, just learning how to not judge that person, not to go into, what's wrong with you? You're so neurotic, right? Which is like a horrible judgment, into, oh, wow, there's something about my manner, my tone of voice that triggered you. Tell me more. What do you need right now? You guys tracking me? Cool. Okay, who's going to go next with their story, feelings, and needs? Christopher. Oh, we can't hear you, though. Still can't hear you. Oh, now you're muted. Still can't hear you.
How about this?
Perfect.
Okay. You know what? Anyway, so super relevant to what you were just saying. Back when I was in high school and also middle school, I was bullied a lot because I was a quiet, super fat kid. And, I just didn't have any self-confidence. So I relate a lot of like personal criticisms to that time. So that veil of past pain there is, I hear something about my appearance and I automatically take it to heart. I take it way further than I should because like, at one point in time, it built up those self-defense mechanisms that say that, this person is viciously attacking me and that I need to protect myself from that somehow. Even though now it's not really the case, but I think it's a pretty good example.
Great example. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for being willing to be vulnerable about sharing that. Thank you. Who's next? Love Divine. Hello, Miss Love.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm currently triggered just sitting here right now. A veil of past pain is a coping mechanism of distracting, avoiding, checking out. And I'm feeling really frustrated right now and kind of disappointed in myself because my need is to really be present with this group and this work and to feel connected, really connected to this work. And this veil of past pain that keeps coming in like, oh no, you don't want to go there. Let's just avoid, let's just check out, let's just zone out. Let's go somewhere else so we don't have to come back to connection with the power of this work. So triggers happening now.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. So is it all right if I ask a couple of our coaches to give you some empathy and understanding?
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, because since it's happening right now, remember in Love Coach Academy, our motto is empathy first. So who'd like to just give some empathy and understanding to what you just heard Miss Love share?
I will.
Great, thank you, Kat.
I would just like to encourage you to be very gentle with yourself. And you recognize that you're distracted. You recognize that you need what's happening here, and you're distracted. And I think that's huge right there, and just allowing that to be and being gentle with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kat. Yeah, thank you for reflecting back your understanding of what she shared. Thank you. Who else would like to give some empathy and understanding to what Love might be feeling? I saw you've got it as Lace now. Would you like us to call you Lace?
Sorry, that's probably because it's just what automatically signed in. You can call me Lace or Laura. That's just
Okay, good. Lace, also known as Laura, and then Deborah Haviland, also known as Mujiba.
Should I go first or Deborah?
Go ahead, Lace.
Okay. Love, I just wanted to check into your feeling of distraction and maybe some avoidance. Having trouble to identify, where could this be showing up in my life? That feeling of there must be something really uncomfortable or scary or painful just around this corner. So let me just look the other way. Let me maybe get a drink, or I can just feel that that you're talking about, and how hard it must be to access any story, or maybe there's something just right there and you just can't think about it more. So I just wanted you to know I feel you there, and any avoidance that you feel, any difficulty you're having accessing the meaning of this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Lace. Thank you. Mujiba?
Mm-hmm. Hi, Love Divine.
Hi, Deborah.
I love your name.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So I really feel your soul, and that name with your soul. Yeah. breathing.
Mm.
I'm finding lately yeah, so I can see you're starting to breathe, and um, I just want you to know how happy I am to have you in this class. I really feel your presence, and I hear you that you're saying, I really want to be here. So that's that incredible sincerity you have. So your awareness is, of like 100% being present. And then because you're aware, I'm hearing, how perfectly human it is to notice that there are parts of you that may be distracted, or that thing you had to do, or that thing you have to finish, or, and of course we heard the very, heart-wrenching story the other day of your friend, who I'm sure is on the front burner with you, with your attention, and on the front of your heart. So I just want to really empathize that this is perfectly human, that you have a lot going on.
Thank you.
And I'm so grateful that you're here.
Thank you. It's so good to hear that.
Good.
Thank you. I'm
Welcome.
happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else want to share anything with Love Divine? Any empathy or understanding?
Twinkles.
Twinkles.
Thank you, Deborah.
So Anaprabha.
Yeah, just a little bit. Hey, Love Divine.
Hi, Anaprabha.
Yeah, I just really want to really appreciate you, and as Deborah said, your presence, and that I just feel your divine presence so strong. And I think this desire you have to be so present, and this kind of like criticalness, the self-critic that can come up and go, I'm not doing this good enough. I'm not being present enough. I got to do this better, and I got to do this better, and just all the shoulds, like shoulding on yourself, right?
Nailed it.
And so I just right.
Thank you.
Which we do to ourselves, right? Because we care so much, Love Divine, and this is what we feel. And this is even what can bring tears to my eyes right now, because I feel this divine care you have, for others, and just put some care into your heart too, and you are doing an amazing job. You're just being here. All we can do is showing up. We show up the best we can. Just getting here, being in the presence of everybody. We're showing up, we're here, right? And just okay, I'm doing it, I'm here. I just want to invite you to that essence in, and the acceptance in, and that I really see, and I'm sure everybody else does, how just present you are, and really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. Sometimes it's so helpful to just hear the words, like when you said it's criticism and judgment. Gosh, that's so valuable right there, of somebody being able to translate and find a key word to help identify when there's these uncomfortable feelings. You just perfectly translated for me something a word that I wasn't able to reach into because I was so in the uncomfortable feeling. And that was almost like a trigger word for me to just get more connected to myself. Like, oh, wow. Yeah, there is that critical voice. So thank you for translating that so perfectly. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. So good job, everybody, twinkling to everyone. By the way, I sometimes forget to twinkle, and sometimes I remember to twinkle, and so, don't ever take it personally if I haven't twinkled exactly after you. Love, I'm sure. Oh, Lolly, go ahead.
I just have one question, Scott, and it doesn't have to be in this moment, but at some point, would you mind just modeling one more time, like embodied empathy for us? It doesn't have to be right now, but at some point, like if somebody has I just want to see the master who has been with Marshall Rosenberg for years and years embody empathy to somebody.
The pressure. Well, I'll give it a try right now with you. Is it all right if I give it a try with you, Love
Yeah.
Divine? With what I
Oh,
heard?
yeah, yeah, divine. Great.
So I'm going back and I'm going into my memory of what I heard you say and imagining how you might be feeling. And like everybody else has really brought up, I'm imagining there's this juxtaposition between the desire that you really want to show up for this class. You want to, I know that you're, by your own words, a workshop junkie. You love to learn. You're really taking a big step forward and you're really wanting to learn. And then there's this other part of you that is in avoidance and in distraction. And it's almost as though there's the third part of you that sees the oversoul, right? The observer that sees the part of you that really wants to get it right and learn, and also sees the other part of you that's like wanting to avoid, wanting to distract, having trouble concentrating. And so there's like these different parts of you, and it creates a real vulnerability and maybe some confusion. You didn't say this, but maybe some confusion. And if it were me in my body, I think I'd feel almost like a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach and maybe my heart pounding a little bit, and definitely knowing you, the courage to bring it up and share it with the group and have everybody looking at you and everybody putting their attention on you as you're sharing this vulnerable thing. I'd imagine that my heart would be feeling pretty open and maybe heart pounding a little bit, maybe my throat feeling a little bit contracted perhaps. That's, if I were you, what I'm imagining I might be experiencing.
The beauty of having someone know you so well. Yes, Scott, you know me better than most everybody here. So yes, thank you for reflecting that, those deeper layers of me all working simultaneously. Yes, there are all of those levels currently happening at the same time.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And just one little tip as a teaching thing, notice that I didn't say that this was what she was experiencing. I said, this is what, if I were you, I'm imagining you might be experiencing. This is what I would be experiencing. So I'm not telling her what her experience is. I'm imagining what her experience is if I were her or if it were me in that situation in my body, right? So we always want to use words like I'm guessing, I'm imagining, it might be like this, or if I were you, this is what I would be experiencing. So there's always like a little bit of we're showing our desire to understand and feel it without crossing the line into telling somebody else what they're feeling or what they're experiencing. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you. One last question for you, Love, and thank you for bringing this up. Taking myself out of the equation, but the other people that shared with you, when we practice giving empathy, we always want to ask the person who is receiving empathy, when did you feel especially connected? Okay, so the purpose of empathy is to create connection. So not including what I did. But the others, is there a particular moment where you felt especially gotten or especially connected?
Absolutely, with Anaprabha, for sure. When Anaprabha used the word inner critic, that really just, I had a full body response.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was actually part of the process of what was happening to me as we started. When you were giving instructions to this exercise, I could feel the voice of criticism coming in, like just this feeling of, I should know all of this. Like, I got this, right? Like, I've been listening to this shit for years. Like, I'm the workshop junkie, right? Like, I should have this down. But then the anxiety of, like, when I am put on the spotlight and I have to go in a breakout room or I have to talk in front of the whole group, I go into anxiety and like, oh, yeah, but now suddenly I don't remember anything. And then that's when the confusion comes in. So there's a whole nother 10 layers on it. But just the self-criticism, it allowed me to just be more present with what I was actually feeling. It like, it really nailed it on the head for me. That's why I said I appreciate the translation, and I'm feeling that sense that sometimes when people are, like for myself, having a really uncomfortable feeling, being able to just identify where is that uncomfortable feeling coming from, and she guided me to that, and it just kind of was like, oh, wow, I don't have to be so hard on myself or, you know, be so overwhelmed by the should or the criticism. So that felt really good. And I felt really seen by Lace. I appreciated Lace for seeing me, and also for Deborah. That was so beautiful, of just acknowledging my presence and that I am here, and that, you know, I'm wanted here, and that just made me feel really seen, loved.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for your courage to bring it up and to give us a chance to practice and to work on this. So thank you.
Yeah.
And again, when I ask people, when do you feel especially connected? There's no right or wrong. Nobody did anything right. Nobody did anything wrong. It's not like that. It's getting to know. It's getting to understand, right? That this is a class. We're learning. So, all right. A couple more examples. Who wants to do, and then we'll go on to our next practice. Who wants to do, okay, Mariko, the story and then feelings and needs.
So this last week, I had a very radically up and down emotionally, tales of past pain, post-traumatic stress disorder, period pain, wild tantric sex week. But I'm going to focus on the pain part. And because I still need empathy over that, maybe. So I signed up for a very expensive millionaire ladies priestess goddess business accelerator course, and I was trying to start the work. It's too long, huh? Okay, I was trying to start the work, and the work was triggering me. And then part of the course that's $2,000 is you get to be part of a Facebook group. And so I posted a question there. Nobody answered it. So then I took it to the empathy group, and then nobody answered it there. People just gave me likes and stuff like that. And I really just wanted someone to help me with the answers. And then I took it to the web call, which was at 7 in the morning. And then she completely shut me down with the opposite of empathetic response, like dismissive, and then told me that I was being triggered, and then kicked me out of the group. And so I still, and then kind of scolded me with an email after, your behavior is unacceptable, and I'm going to swiftly take you out of the group if that ever happens again. And apparently from my response, that wasn't acceptable to her. So I'm still in the midst of trying to figure out how to get a refund perhaps or not. I'm also okay with not, because I take personal responsibility for, the investment that I made. And that's what I tell my coaches. That's my coaching karma. I've also said that if we fight, that's part of it. If we,
So Mariko, I want to give you what you haven't gotten. So rather than you translating it into feelings and needs, because I can really feel the pain of what you went through, I want to like we just did for Love Divine, I want to open it up to some of our coaches to give you empathy and understanding. And I want to ask our coaches to really practice imagining, you may guess correctly or not, what her uncomfortable feelings might have been or are, and what her unmet needs were as it relates to what she experienced. Okay, so are you okay with receiving that, Mariko?
Yeah, I'd like that actually.
Good. All right, who wants to go first? Heidi.
Hi, Mariko. I'm very touched by your story, and I'm imagining that's a big decision to even invest in something like that, and trying to really, I've heard you share in the group before, you're changing the course of your work and probably really excited about this group and excited to learn new things. And it sounds like it was a big financial investment. And really having questions and wanting answers and clarity around the questions you were asking, and then to not be met the first time and then reach out again, and the second time, and then again in person on the call, and to be shut down probably felt very alienating and lonely. And then I'm wondering if shame and anger came up for you. I know for me, I might be ashamed, like what's going on, and look at myself, but then also be angry, like WTF, what's going on here? I've invested in this, I'm showing up, and I'm not getting what I paid for.
Yeah, when you initially said that, I was like, was I ashamed? And I had to go a little bit further and be like, yeah, she shamed me for having emotions. This is not allowed here. We're not doing this right now. We are not doing this right now. You're triggered. Me and my staff don't answer to your triggers.
And I'm wondering if that felt very unsafe, like you're expressing yourself and there's no safety to be received.
It was shocking, actually.
Yeah.
Floor had been pulled from under me.
So it almost sounds like you did feel safe and were expecting that it would be a safe place to express yourself, and the shock
Yeah, it was more like
came
that.
because you weren't met with that feeling of safety that maybe you went in with.
The trust that I went in with was shattered. And my body reacted in complex PTSD. So that was interesting. Like I've been in a variety of different trauma, including car accidents and such. So my body just gets very sleepy for 24 hours, and my brain is foggy.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
I'm imagining that that was, I mean, now that you're mentioning the word trust, that hit deeper for you, and the fact that it activated PTSD and a trauma response is huge. It's something I can relate to. And sometimes when that comes upon us, we're not even clear until we're out of that a bit what's going on. And I love that you use the word shocked. And just, I want to be really compassionate and tender with you that you did go in with that, with the trust, like giving the trust, and that it's an extra hurt and deep pain when you are open and vulnerable and then get kind of smacked in the face like that, or shown that it's not a way you want to be in that group.
Yeah, you're made wrong. You're shamed and you're made wrong. And then a third level of that is I was made into the enemy. I made other people feel unsafe somehow, which happens, which I have a past veil of pain around that. I have activism trauma as well. And like, if you don't collude with an organization, then they will, what was I going to say? Sorry, I lost it.
I'm just noticing right now, I feel like the big sister in me or the mama bear coming out, and I switched from being really present with empathy of wanting to protect you. Like I want to call the lady and be like, hey, My girl here paid for a program. So I'm just feeling that protective part of me that wants to step up and protect you. And all the vulnerability you went in there with, an investment. I think it's huge to invest your time and money, and then to not get the answers, not be met with acceptance of what's coming up for you, and then to be pushed away from the group, I imagine was very hurtful.
I'm sorry, I remember now. You're made into the enemy. I made people feel unsafe. That's like some manipulative shit, is what I felt like it was. Um, 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 so anger was in there.
You're feeling angry, and I'm wondering if you felt really misunderstood.
Totally belittled. And then through all that, though, and this is why I think it's worth $2,000, I saw my middle sister, and I was like, holy shit, that's fucking Christina. I have a Christina wound. And that's what's stopping me from making money. I have a deep, deep sister wound, and I never connected it to the fact that I have this poverty cycle going. It has to do with women, not men, you know? Like, this material that I had to fill out was like having me cry and just like, oh, I don't have any right to be proud of the things that I've done in my life. And, you know, that's all family of origin stuff that I just carry around with me forever. And then when I got to the Zoom call, she was just acting like my sister.
So I'm wondering if I heard you right, and I don't know that I did, that you were connecting that you had something open and an awareness happen that made it worth paying the money even if you're not in the group. And I don't know if I completely misunderstood that.
Yeah, that's me and my conscious self trying to be okay with everything and make different decisions. That's my new decision, not out of the past veil of pain, because I do have issues with money and trauma and men and trauma. And like, I've come from a place where I would handcuff myself I threatened to handcuff myself to a guy's front gate if he didn't pay me my $1,000. So like, that's how, you know, I've come from that past veil of pain and really, you know, and this is $2,000, and I'm like, oh well, I learned something great, amazing, that was worth it. Okay, good. Yeah.
I want to come in for a moment here, Mariko. And first of all, thank you for all that you've shared. And definitely you've opened up some important things. And I want to give you an option. Would you like to go into a breakout room and continue to unravel some of this with Heidi? Because Heidi is one of our most advanced coaches. And Heidi, what we're going to work on next is stuff that I think you're pretty comfortable and know. So Mariko, would you like to go into a breakout room and continue to work with Heidi? And because I could feel like you've opened up a Pandora's box, and I honored that. And you don't have to, but that's an option that if you would like to do that. And this is something that, by the way, frequently happens in my classes, whether it's a relationship with cancels, cash, or mentorship class. Somebody opens something up, and it's a good time to go deeper into it. And so one of our love coaches can, go be with them while we continue the class, or you can stay in the class with us. But what would your preference be, Mariko?
I mean, I always want free work. I need more work always, but I don't want to miss what you're, I mean, I'm not triggered right now. I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's what you're asking.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely if you're triggered. And do you feel like that we could move forward in a minute or two? Would you feel that this is complete enough for you? And I'm in the awareness that your pain was about being cut off. So there's the part of me not wanting to cut you off, right? So I just want to acknowledge that. So that's why I'm wanting to give you a choice too, and definitely there are times that people start to open something up. It could have happened with Love Divine too. If I'd felt like she was still in it, I would have made the exact same offer to her. But I could kind of feel that, it felt more like she was in a completion place with it. Plus she also heard from 4 or 5 people, and you've been And Heidi, I think, has been doing a wonderful job. Let's twinkle Heidi for the wonderful job she's been doing. So how do you feel, Mariko?
No, I can stay. I'm fine.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I acknowledge you trying to acknowledge, because I didn't go into the story that what happened the next day between us is I went to your empathy class and I didn't get the empathy that I wanted. And so Anapurba and Laura did an extra session with me already. So I'm at a much better place with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
also primarily just having that trigger come up again with a different actor was really helpful, and that you could see the past veil of pain really clearly.
Mhm.
I could see that this was my sister, and like with you, you are not a bitch, you know, and you don't act like a dismissive bitch at any time. And I can't imagine that that's even an archetype that you have to activate. Maybe. I don't know. Do you have a bitch inside you, Scott? He doesn't answer.
I'm an actor, so I can go just about anywhere.
No comment. I caught that. But yeah, so that's why I was able to see, you know,
Yeah.
it was really
Okay.
helpful.
All right, last question for you, Mariko. When did you feel especially connected or supported Heidi today with you?
I don't remember. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Mariko. And by the way, it's totally okay for people to go and get water and go to the bathroom and things like that. Um, I have a request where we're going to go next. Chris, I never did the little process you asked me to do of fixing my Acrobat. And so what I'm trying to open up keeps closing. Can you go into Facebook Messenger to the Gold group and open up the doc that's in there and share it for people? Great. And you know how to do share screen, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So we are going to go into the next level of practice around this. And we're going to, in a moment, Chris is going to pull up a document that some of you know well and some of you will be seeing for the first time. Evaluations masquerading as feelings. And this little document, which now I've put in your Gold Mentorship group thread, it's in your Facebook Messenger thread, is, oh, yeah, thank you, Heidi's pulling it out. Yes, Chris.
First off, can you hear me? Did I fix my microphone?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Step one. Anyway, I'm on my mom's computer, mom's Facebook, and I don't know that I'm in that group. Do you think you could send that directly to her?
Oh, right. Yes, I'll do that. So
Cool.
give me a second.
Thank you.
I can even start to talk about this. Well, actually, you know what? Hang on a second. I am going to actually open it up. Who's somebody else who knows this document who wants to introduce it to people? Love Divine has it too. Very cool. All right. So one of our other people who wants to give an introduction to this particular document, Evaluations Masquerading as Feelings. Who wants to introduce it? Anybody feel confident enough to do that? I'm looking. Anapurba. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, guys, I'm saving you, all right? This was actually quite a difficult one to get for me at first, right? Because often I would feel like my feeling would be I'm feeling abandoned, right? Or I'm feeling, I was abused, or I'm feeling alienated. I use those as feelings myself. And I found out that that's an evaluation of what I'm feeling. And so, okay, what I'm actually feeling when I'm saying I'm abandoned, I'm actually feeling frightened, lonely, sad, shocked, hurt, heartbroken, left alone, just very, or abused. I'm feeling abused. Really, that's an evaluation of my feelings of being angry, frustrated, frightened. So that's the complexity of usually words that we're using as feelings are actually evaluations of what we're feeling, of our deeper feelings. Right?
Beautiful. Thank you. That's All Twinkle on a Prabha. And yeah, just to explain this, Doc, because I want all of you to take a look at the words on the left-hand column and pick out which of these words you still use. And if you use a lot of them, pick out the 2 or 3 you use most often. And these are, like Anna Prabhupada said, these are evaluations masquerading as feelings. They're not real feelings. They are projections of what someone is doing to us. You insulted me. You manipulated me. You betrayed me. And so these words on the left-hand column are words that we use when we're feeling hurt and we feel that someone has hurt us. Now, what's really important is not to go right into correcting someone. So, for example, Mariko, a few minutes ago, used the word belittled. And I wouldn't go straight into correcting her and saying, well, you know, Mariko, actually, you weren't belittled. That's not a feeling, blah, blah, blah. When we use any of these words, we're hurting. People are hurting when they use these words. So we are not the nonviolent communication police department that, you know, comes jumping in with, that's not NVC. We acknowledge someone's hurting when they use these words. But we also want to go deeper into translating. And especially if you hear one of these words and you're working with a couple. If you hear, you know, him say to her, I feel pressured by you, or you hear her say, well, I feel taken for granted by you, this is where learning how to translate, kind of like the story I told you at the beginning, really comes in handy. Because you take it, because anytime someone throws it like this at us, we're probably going to get defensive. We're going to defend ourselves. And we're going to miss the pain that they're in. So this sheet is your cheat sheet, if you will. It's your way of learning how to translate painful judgments into feelings and needs. All right? So I'm going to ask each of you to pick at least one word and then really take a look at, and of course, so like say you take abandoned. Well, if you go over to the right, then those are possible feelings you might actually be having. Those are real feelings. The middle column are words that are genuine feelings. Left-hand column, none of those are feelings. They're judgments, they're projections, they're evaluations. Middle column, real feeling words. And then the far right-hand column are the needs, the values, the desires that possibly aren't being met when we are using a word like abandoned or abused or attacked. And really take time and think about when you actually have used these words, and then what were the real feelings or the real needs that were connected to that. And I want to invite you to start putting it into the chat box. Start putting it into the chat box. And thank you, Chris, for putting it up for us. And while you start putting your answers in the chat box, I'm going to use the bathroom.
You know what? I actually don't see how to put in chat while sharing my screen, so I guess I could just say mine.
Oh, when you, the way you do, any of you, if you, the chat box is either at the bottom, or if you take your cursor all the way up to the top, uh, try doing that. Take your cursor all the way to the top, Chris, and it
Right.
should open up a toolbar, and
Yeah,
you'll
I
find the
see
chat
that.
box there.
I can tell you how it is. It's view options. And then in view options, you can exit full screen share so that you have access to the chat or to your notes at the bottom.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yeah.
Did that work for you, Chris?
No. I see the thing for the chat panel. It's just not working. So
Okay,
it may,
all right.
yeah.
All right, so Chris, why don't you share it with us verbally?
Sure. Yeah. A huge one for me is smothered, and I can totally see where it comes from too. I actually really like this chart because I mean, of course, I've thought of many of the things on the left-hand side, but never really delved deep enough to realize that it was anything on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So, yeah, smothered. I have a huge value for personal space, and when that gets violated, let's say, then I tend to act in the middle column. It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. When I have these needs that are not being met, then I act in such ways.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for getting it. I love how when people get an aha in this class. I think you could probably take it down now and we can see each other. Great. There's everybody. So who else?
Oh.
Who else would like to share verbally? Like a kind of the way Chris just did, where they have something very specific, and where maybe you had an aha about what you were actually feeling or needing. Anybody have another aha, kind of like Chris did? Heidi, and then Timothy.
I was a little bit in touch with the feelings, but the aha was the needs. So my 3 evaluation words were abandoned, betrayed, and rejected. And so I was in touch with the hurt, angry, scared, feeling heartbroken. What I wasn't in touch with was the needing trust, dependability, clarity, commitment, honesty, and then the kind of friendship and belonging.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, thank you. When our veils of past pain are particularly strong, we can really hold on to the victim languaging. And the thing about all those words in the left-hand column is they're all victim words, right? So anytime we're using a word like that, or just thinking like that, because I've had a lot of people say, well, I don't really use those words, but I sure do think them. So we're thinking like a victim, right? And we all, look, obviously all of us have used one or more of those words recently, probably. So it's a repatterning, but what's beautiful is it's a way to actually be more empowered and more authentic. Timothy.
Betrayed is the one I chose, and I came in touch with it yesterday. I still feel very betrayed by the mother of my kids, and I take on a victim stance and justify the way that I react in relationship to her needs, wants, desires from me. And I'm really wanting fairness and clarity and commitment. And it's a difficult situation because she has a hard time communicating her needs, wants, emotions. So yeah, I'm pretty much stuck there. But yesterday I did some good work. So.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
Clarify. So that part of you that feels really hurt and frustrated, does that then sometimes serve as an entitlement to treat her less kindly or less patiently?
Yeah, just to ignore.
Mm-hmm. Right. How perfectly human. Absolutely no judgment there. But can you see where, because you have the betrayed story, and underneath that is, those uncomfortable feelings and unmet needs, it entitles you, it gives you a sense of entitlement to treat her less favorably than you would treat somebody new in your life or somebody that you don't have that history with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is where then it becomes like really challenging with people like an ex-wife or an ex-husband or those very difficult relationships. They are master teachers for us of how to set boundaries with compassion and how to give ourselves enough empathy to continue to give them empathy and understanding. There's also a clue that Timothy gave me. So I'm going to just follow up on this clue, and it may or may not be accurate. Does she feel dominated by you?
She's the power player in the situation, so I don't think so. I don't think she's ever really felt dominated by me.
Okay. So I guessed inaccurately. What made me think of that was when you said it takes her longer to get in touch with what her feelings and her needs are.
I'm saying she is incapable of it.
Incapable of being in touch with her feelings and
Yeah,
needs.
we've tried over many, many years with therapists, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Well, that's really hard.
Yeah.
So in other words, she's really she has a strong world view of being a victim and getting her needs met by being a victim.
No, she's always been very good at taking care of herself, and she feels justified in her requests.
Mm-hmm.
She wants respect as the mother of a handicapped child. Even if it means squeezing the lemon till it's dead.
Right.
There's not much sympathy for me.
Right. Right. So is it that she feels that she had a greater burden than you, and therefore?
Here's the trouble, Scott. Like, we're just telling stories. I have no idea. She cannot communicate what's going on for her, even in a story format. Even when I ask point blank questions like, are you needing respect? What is this about? Like, what do you need from me? Money, always money. So.
Well,
but I agree with what you said earlier, that she is a huge teacher for me at staying equanimous and knowing that this too shall pass, and to try to be empathetic and somehow figure out what her unmet need is and see if I can't meet that. And right now I know that's send $500 a month. And so I'm doing that. And I'm not lawyering up anymore because she lawyers up. And I've just realized that we just both waste money. So.
Well, thank you for sharing. That's really hard. That is really, really hard. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for putting into the chat box. And I want to just, twinkling. See, I forgot to twinkle there. So I forget to twinkle sometimes. I'm always like on to the next thing. Take a look at the chat box for a minute. And what's interesting, notice that we didn't, we don't have stories there. But you could pick any person, like I'm just looking at love, anxious and overwhelmed, needing clarity, choice, and care. Totally opens my heart. Totally connect. If she went into story, I'd be in my mind, I'd be trying to figure it out. But when we are in feelings and needs, you can pick anybody there. Opens our heart. Oh my God, it feels so hard to be criticized and put down. Right? So what we're wanting to do is constantly translate into feelings and needs. Right? In answer to your question, Mariko, and by the way, I haven't been able to follow the chat box very much tonight. I'll go back and read it later this evening. But I see that Mariko's asking, is this the same with the story we tell ourselves, even if the evaluation is true? Yeah, because an evaluation might be, we might think it's true, it might be true in our mind, but it still is an evaluation. And when we throw that evaluation at another person, they're almost always going to go into reptile brain, right? Right? Even if they agree that they betrayed us, even if that's true, they're still, when we say you betrayed me, they're still going to go into protecting themselves, right? So remember that we want to always stay connected to someone, even when there's pain. Okay. By the way, attacked that's on that ledger isn't physical attack. I want to be really clear that in this class, we're working on relationship and we're working on emotional safety. Physical safety is an entirely different thing. And we'll actually tomorrow morning, both in our compassionate talk at 9 a.m. and then the for coaches only talk after that, we'll talk about what happens when you're working with a or somebody where physical safety is actually become a problem or an issue. And most of the time it's referring it because now it's outside of our capacity. So emotional safety is very different than physical safety. It doesn't mean that emotional safety isn't radically important, but there are ways to set boundaries for emotional safety. But once it gets into physical, now it's time for the police. Now it's time for an institution ourselves. So I just wanted to clarify that. Are there any thoughts, questions, reflections? Mariko.
So I said, what about verbally attacks? Like that kind of goes along with like facts, right? So I'm having trouble discerning what if things are factual, like I was called a name or something like that. That's a fact. I felt attacked, or I concentrate on the feelings after the fact.
Well, let's go back for a second. Verbal attack is a great example of something that you might feel attacked, but the other person didn't mean it that way. Because we all have different interpretation of what certain words mean, okay? I would never, ever consider the word nigger on a black person. But some black people call each other nigger all the time because that's part of their cultural trip and it's okay. So there are certain words that to one person it's cool to say, or they even might say it in a way that's almost connective, and the other person could hear it as a terrible. So verbal attack is almost always still open to debate as to whether it was an attack or not. Now, what's true is your feelings. So let's just say I use a word that, well, I know, I'll give it this analogy. Let's say right now I told a really funny joke that was racist, that definitely had a strong racist bias. Same joke, you all heard the same joke, but there could be 10 different reactions. You might be shocked, you might be laughing, you might be bored, You might be angry. You might be confused. Each of you have a completely different emotional response to the same stimulus, right? So it's not about the stimulus, it's about your response to the stimulus, which brings us back to argue forever whether that racist joke was offensive. We could argue for the rest of our lives. It was offensive. No, it wasn't. Then I get a bunch of people that say, hey, it wasn't offensive. It's cool. And you get a bunch of people say it was totally offensive. We could argue forever. Arguable is whatever your emotional response was. If you were shocked, that's not arguable. If you were laughing, that's not. Whatever you were feeling is not arguable. And whichever of your values were not met is not arguable. Your value for respect was not met. If you were shocked and angry because your value for respect was not met, that's not arguable. It's your experience. So we always bring it down again when we're translating. We're translating feelings and needs because they're universal. And so even if, using the racist joke example, even if some of you thought it was funny and you weren't triggered by it, and some of you were triggered by it, we can understand being triggered by it, not based on whether or not the joke was disrespectful, but based on understanding what it feels like when our need for respect isn't met, or when, so then we can draw upon our memory. This is the genius of Marshall Rosenberg. This is the genius of feelings and needs. We all know what it feels like when we're angry, shocked, and our need for respect hasn't been met. We can all relate to that. We can all imagine it. We could argue forever whether or not that particular event or joke or experience was meant in a disrespectful way. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. And this is the genius of feelings and needs and bringing it down to all of that. Any other thoughts or questions, reflections about this? Okay. Anuprabha.
Yeah, just briefly, that is really powerful, actually, just to really, I just remember not, when I was first learning it, just really having a really hard time computing it. You know what I mean? It's just like, because really these evaluations, they kind of came out as needs. So I'm really appreciating, looking at the evaluation and going into the feelings and then the needs around it. So I kind of had a deeper kind of understanding of something that I've been going through or feeling, and how I could approach it in my communication style, going, instead of saying I'm feeling unseen, saying I'm feeling, hey, some sad and frustration, and I'm feeling a little anxious to share this at this moment with you. So I appreciate that insight.
Beautiful. Thank you. Mimi, we haven't, is that a twinkle or is that a hand?
It was both. I threw them both.
You're going both ways.
I went both. Something that I recognized growing up was, I would say, I'm sad. And they're like, well, what are you feeling sad for? That's ridiculous. And you shouldn't feel that way. That's not how it was meant. And, or I'm feeling angry. Well, then you're taking that way too personally. And so I just remember, like, growing up in a military and a high, just that like get over it mentality. And so I recognized how often I've brought that into conversation. Like when people tell me, hey, I'm feeling sad, I really have to bypass the part of my brain that says, dude, why are you feeling sad? Like to get to empathy is an actual journey for me. So I just want to like own that part of my psyche. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's so real. That's so real. Um, One of the things, that I've talked about is that, we have these, I call them the 6 Ds, the different words that we use that basically deny another person's reality. We can diminish it, we can deny it, we can defend, we can dominate, we can distract. These are all ways that we avoid really connecting to another person's experience. And we especially use those Ds when that person's experience somehow is related to us feeling defensive because we think like they're accusing us or maybe we've done something that's had an impact on them and we're wanting to, you know, defend ourselves or distract away or deny or diminish, right? All those things we do to kind of not really drop into the presence of that person's experience. Lace, also known as Laura.
What were the 6 again? It's diminish, deny, defend, distract, and
Dominate, and anybody else remember the 6th one? Anuprabha.
Dismiss.
Yes, we went into this. Yeah, we went into this deeply on the Saturday's class, actually, the non-empathetic responses, the subtle non-empathetic responses, right?
Right.
So there's denying, colluding, actually, advising, interrogating, evaluating, preaching, downplaying, and distracting. And dismissing as well.
Right.
Colluding, advising, interrogating.
Can somebody please type those into?
Yeah, I'll just write them into the box. I guess also, Scott, you have the 7 Ds, but we went into these really deeply, and it was a really powerful discussion. It really kind of really anchored that in the non.
Thank you, Anuprabha, for leading that discussion. And yeah, put those into the chat box, please.
Thank you.
Lolly, your hand is up.
Hi, guys. I love everything that's being said. And Scott, I just wanted to say, when you embodied empathy for us, one of the first things I noticed was that you really took a pause and you embodied what Love Divine was feeling for just a moment. You didn't rush yourself at all. And because you didn't rush yourself, my little ego wasn't rushing you either, because I could see you take that moment, you kind of lean back a little bit. And I just wanted to reiterate that Marshall Rosenberg talked a lot about how most of our communication is completely nonverbal. And that goes for therapist, client as well. And even if as a therapist or, coach, whatever you want to call it, well, I'm a hypnotherapist, so I have a hard time with those words, but I really lean into that, most of my practice with people is embodying, first of all, my own uncomfortable feelings. Sometimes I can be tired and not to be mean, but maybe distracted or bored or whatever. So how it really works for me is to do exactly what Scott did, which is take a pause, embody, notice if I'm having uncomfortable feelings just for a moment, and then leaning into imagining really going down into a tunnel with them, like down into this tunnel, knowing that I'm safe, but I'm in that tunnel with them. And most of the time my body will just allow me to find the right words. I don't have to think of the right words, right? The right words will come out. So I just wanted to kind of offer that and say, that's what I saw you do, Scott.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, kind of going back to that as then a teacher pointed. Thank you, Lolly. In my world, I was all ready to move on to the next thing when Lolly asked me to give that example. And so I really had to change gears. And so what I did do was, in my own process, I went back to remembering what my memory was of what Love Divine had shared. And then I scanned my memory for words that stood out or feelings that I had as she was sharing that stood out, right? And that's what I did. And then when I came up with a couple of words that I remembered that had stood out for me, then I embodied what do those feel like when they're going on for me. And then I began to imagine the juxtaposition between the part of her that really wants to be fully present and the part of her that gets distracted or avoidant. And avoidant, by the way, is one of those words that stood out for me. She has a self-judgment of going into avoidance. And there's the other part of herself that really wants to take it seriously and really be great at it. So that's I started feeling, what would that feel like to me if I had these two sides battling? And then I imagined the third part of me, the part of me that sees, the observer that sees that that's what's going on. So I became aware of imagining three different parts of myself that were in my imagining taking place within Love Divine. Does that make sense? And it's just all takes slowing down and then dropping in, you know. When you were saying what you just said, Lolly, triggered a couple of little love coaching tips that were just kind of random, but they got triggered. When coaching, it's okay to ask your clients for whatever you need. It's say, can we slow down, please? I do that all the time in my sessions. Roxy, I just did 12 sessions with my good friend Roxy that I do the show with on Friday nights. And she sent another couple to me. She said, Scott, they need you. They need you to slow them down. And sure enough, as soon as I started working with them, it was all about slow down, slow down. And even if I'm working one-on-one with somebody, I'll say, well, please, I need you to really slow down. Let me reflect back what I've heard so far, and then you can continue. Because sometimes people are just so eager to vent and to get it all going, and it's okay to slow them down. It's okay to ask them to lower the volume of the voice. It's okay to ask them to change their tone of voice, politely, gently, but it's okay for us to ask for what we need, and always qualify it. I'm asking you for this so I can really stay present with you, so that the quality of our connection can improve. I really want to hear what you have to say. I want to digest this. Okay, so it's okay to ask as coaches. Just because we're the coach, and even if we're being paid, and even if we're being paid well, it doesn't mean that we can't still do what we need to take better care of ourselves or to take better care of them. And usually the two are intertwined. Yes, love.
I have a question. What if an uncomfortable feeling is triggered within myself as I'm listening to clients, and I'm not in that moment able to just process it super quick enough to be present with them? It's something, so would I tell them that? Because I'm actually really needing a moment to sit with that uncomfortable feeling so that I can be
Absolutely.
present for them. So would I say
Absolutely.
that gently, like, wow, I'm noticing that that's really triggering something from you right now. Can we maybe take a break? I don't know. How do you deal with that?
Just like that. Just like that, love. It's happened for me many times. And I'll acknowledge, and I'll sometimes qualify, I'll say, look, my job is to be neutral right now and to stay present with you. And what I heard really triggered me. And I need to figure out what I need. I need a minute, or I need to take a break to process that so I can come back and really be back in Love Coach Scott mode and give you the empathy or the understanding that you want. I want to give you the best, and I need to process my own stuff right now. And I think, and Timothy in a second, my experience is when you do that, it increases, because now people know that we're really being real with them. And, it's a slight moment, but I think it engenders more trust and ultimately more safety, because then people know we're really going to be real. Timothy, what are your thoughts about that?
One I like to use is I'll use my body sensation. So a client will say something and I'll say, I'm feeling a contraction in my solar plexus. Let me just tune into that. what are you feeling in your body right now? And often they're like, the partner who's also feeling the contraction will say, I'm feeling that too. And it allows us to all kind of get realigned again.
Absolutely. And so then riffing on what Timothy just said, many, 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 many times when I've been working with couples, and one person's like one's dominant and the other one's submissive or kind of shut down, I'll slow down and say, if I were Jill right now, I'm just noticing I feel uncomfortable as Scott. And if I were Jill, I wouldn't be feeling safe right now. And so I want to slow down. I just want to check in. Jill, what's going on for you? Exactly. That's exactly what's going on. Okay. So we as coach, we pay attention, we watch, and like Timothy said, feel it, And when you feel punch in the gut, when you feel your heart contracting, you probably feel somebody else in the room, and it's a beautiful thing to give that voice, to give that presence. Yeah. Okay. Mariko and then Heidi.
I know a couple, like the couple that you had talked about earlier, the lesbian couple, and I know that we're not supposed to coach without permission, but what if you know a couple that gets into fights in front of you, then do you have the right to coach without permission? And then is this a good kind of tactic to use?
Are you there as a coach or are you there as a friend?
Friend.
So as you have a right to set a boundary. I wouldn't do it from the place of coaches. So they're fighting in front of you and it's really uncomfortable. I wouldn't do it as jumping in as a coach saying, now what you're doing is not right, or something like that.
No, just what you just did. If I were her, I would not be feeling safe right now.
I would start by saying, it's what Timothy just said. I'm noticing I'm feeling really uncomfortable. The exchange taking place between the two of you right now, I'm not feeling comfortable. And I don't really want to stay present with this, but I love you both. I care about you. And then you can take it to, and I'm guessing that Jill also might be feeling uncomfortable with just kind of your level of intensity right now. Can we slow down? Can we create safety right now? But acknowledge it's your feeling, right? I'm feeling uncomfortable right now, right? Not you're making me uncomfortable, not that, but I'm feeling uncomfortable. Can we slow down? Can we just take a minute, right? Whatever it is. Because that's what's real. That's not arguable. That Jill is feeling uncomfortable is arguable. That the other person made everybody feel uncomfortable is arguable. But that you're feeling uncomfortable is not arguable. Whatever we're feeling is always real in the moment. Whatever anybody else acknowledges they're feeling is real in the moment. Even if that feeling is triggered by an inaccurate assumption or hallucination. Right? And I'm bringing that up. Oftentimes, let's say I'm talking to Mimi and she misunderstands me and she gets really angry because she misunderstood what I said. My masculine logical brain is going to want to deny her anger, get straight to, no, you misunderstood me. But in fact, in proper love coaching, oh, you heard me say, of course you're angry. If, I can understand why you would be angry because that's what you heard me say. Maybe that's really not what I meant. What I meant was, but I understand why you would get angry if that's what you heard. See, that way I'm not killing her experience. I'm not denying her. And I'm choosing Mimi because she talked about growing up in a family where that's what they did to her. So that's why I'm trying to, in one fell swoop, maybe I'm trying to heal you with my magic wand and my magic words and doing what you never got as a child. Okay, Heidi had her hand up.
I don't know if this is important to say, but I'm just thinking of working with trauma, both when I've received it and work with others in trauma, that if I am triggered, if I'm the person providing the session, I don't feel it's safe a person in trauma be left at all. So I always suggest a modality. If I'm feeling something come up and I need to arrive again, I will just suggest that we both do a modality together. I don't really have to explain why. It's just, let's take a moment, let's take a breath, let's do a hand movement together, whatever modality I would take them into, but it also is a recentering modality for myself. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's powerful. Very good. Twinkling Heidi. All right. So homework assignment, and then I want to acknowledge that I had asked you guys last week to work with a client intake form that I sent. I'm not going to point out the people who didn't do it. I do want to acknowledge that Love Divine was the first person to get her client intake form in. So gold star for Love Divine there. I haven't had a chance to see it, but I'm excited to see Christopher took it and made a kind of client intake form for somebody dealing with substance abuse. So I'm eager to see how he translated it. And so a reminder, if you haven't done it, take the client intake form. I'll put it back in the thread again. And how would you make it your own? What would you do to take my form and adapt it? And by the way, you are open to take it and adapt it and make it your own. So that's a reminder of last week's homework assignment to still do. Yes, Mimi.
I did it and I sent it back to you. Is it supposed to say Love Coach Academy on top, or like, are we in residency kind of under Love Coach, or are we, or would I put it as Lighthouse Effects for my company?
Whatever you like.
Okay.
You can keep it Love Coach Academy because you're all Coach Academy.
Right.
Yeah, and if you wanted to change it to your, okay. If you changed it to your own, it might be nice to, it's primarily my form.
Right.
I always appreciate a little appreciation. So, a sentence of, this form was adapted from what I learned from Scott Thomas at Love Coach Academy. That would be nice.
Okay. I just kept it under you, but I just put residency of, so I'm just saying residency. Okay, great.
Yeah, I like that. That's nice. That's nice. So if you haven't done that, do that. And then the homework assignment is really translating stories into feelings and needs. Throughout your day, stories into feelings and needs. Your own stories, dramas that are happening around you. And I would love it if you guys private message me with some examples. Hey, Scott, this is a story that came up for me today. And this is what I realized I was feeling and needing. Hey, Scott, this is what went on for my mom or my dad or my kid or whoever, right? Translating it into feelings and needs. And I will put into our gold mentorship group right now the list of universal human needs, the list of universal human feelings. Okay, so you guys have that again, and an example of my client intake form. I have not, I haven't been able to read the chat box. I'll do that later tonight. Somebody was saying something?
Yeah, sorry, Scott. How do you prefer for us to share those stories with you? Do you want us to email, text, or how would you prefer to receive that?
Facebook private message.
Facebook private message, okay.
Facebook private message, yeah. Yeah, that would be
great.
great.
And then Scott, in here, because I said I did that exercise for homework, but where do you want us to put it? Is that
Facebook private message? Facebook private message.
I mean our intake form.
Facebook private message.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah. In other words, do it as a doc. Don't put the whole form in. Okay. Create a doc and then, yeah, so I can just easily open it up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Facebook private message is good for me because then I can, mark read until I go back and read it. So, and I scan through my Facebook private messages and see, read and not read. So that's easy for me. Okay. Remember again, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., our compassionate talk is going to be about risk behavior. And we'd love to have a few coaches for that. And also I might get some from the Blue Mentorship group. And then all of us coming into the webinar room, I'd say come on in no later than 10:15 because it's about the time we usually wrap up our compassionate talk, and we'll roll right into a conversation about how to handle some of those issues. Okay? Thank you, everybody. have a good evening. I'll look
Hey,
forward to
Scott, can
hopefully
I ask
seeing
you
most of
one
you
more
tomorrow.
question? If
Sure.
for some reason we can't make it tomorrow morning at 10:15, would you mind recording that?
Yeah, I was planning on recording it.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
anybody who comes in, remind me to record it.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
See you
Thank
tomorrow.
you. Thank you,
See ya.
Scott. We love you.
Love you guys. Love you,
Yeah.
Scott.
Bye, everybody.
Love you
Have a
too.
great
Love you,
night.
Christine. I don't